Hey everybody, it's Kate Richburg and I am live at beadshop.com. And if it's Friday, it must be Free Tip Friday. And it is Friday. So it is Free Tip Friday. There it is. Today we are going to talk about wire. Since we have some brand new wire in here at beadshop.com. It's going to be really, I think, a fun and informative session. Let me jump on here and make sure that you can see me and I can see you. And then here we go. I just got my notification that we're live. Whoops, and I can hear myself. There we go. Okay, there we have. Everyone's coming in. Good morning. Oh, is it a little bright, Brand? I can't tell. Brandon's going to close the curtains a little bit. It's curtains for me because it's a little bright. I can't always tell. Alrighty, there we go. Thanks, Brand. I think that's better already. So I'm not super bright on my face. Super bright.
That's what I was thinking.
There we go. Do I look better? I think I look better. Okay, great. Thanks, Brand.
Sure.
So let's jump in. We've got some brand new wire, like I said, over at Bead Shop. We are really excited about it, and it's a wire that I've been using for a really long time. It is called Parawire. I've got some right here, Parawire. And it's a really cool product. We've added 2 of the flavors that we're going to be adding. We're going to be adding a lot more colors, a lot more finishes, but we have 2 to start. And let me give you a little bit of background about the Parawire, and then I'll turn the camera around and we'll do a few tricks with it, okay? And I'm seeing everybody's jumping in and saying hello. Great, everyone's here. My mom is here. Good morning, Gwenda. And it looks like my friend Tammy's here, and everybody's saying hello from across the country. That's great. Beth B. It's 3:30 a.m. in Wagga Wagga. Get some sleep, Beth B. You can watch this on replay. But it's Saturday already. That means if I were with you in Wagga Wagga, I'd be having a day off. That'd be awesome. But great, everybody's here. It's great to have everybody. Awesome. And our Gita, who does a lot of linking and moderating, she is actually not here today. She is off on a little evening adventure in Denmark. So you just have me. So I'm sorry. Sorry about that. But we always miss Gita when she's not here. Okay, so good morning, or evening, or afternoon, or tomorrow, or wherever we all are. So let me turn this camera around a little bit, in just a little bit, and then we'll talk about the Parawire, what's it all about, and what its uses are and stuff like that. So Parawire is a U.S.-made wire. It's been made in the U.S. Since the early 1930s. So Parawire knows wire, and they manufacture wire. So it's all manufactured here in the U.S. on the East Coast, the traditional home of the American jewelry making tradition. And so it's a really super quality product. And I wanted to bring in a couple of colors that we don't carry. And so we've added a rose gold color, and you guys will see that. Let me hold it up. It's kind of hard to see on the video, but I'll turn it around when we're a little closer. So we've got rose gold, and then we also have bare copper. And bare copper is going to be really important, and I'll talk to you about why bare copper is going to be so important here in just a second. So let me turn this around and let's look at the wire. Okay, let me turn on my glasses, put on my glasses so I can see where I'm going. And let me turn us all around here. You can see the office a little bit, our office space, as I turn this around. On Fridays, as I say, I'm my own camera woman, so you have to kind of bear with me a little bit here. There we go. But I am going to ask Brandon before I go too much further, will you grab a liver of sulfur for me, just so I can show them when I talk about it? Okay. There we go. Let me tighten up all of this stuff here. I think we're tight. I think we're good. Things are moving around. There are my hands. Okay, great. Let me lift up just a little bit too. Again, thanks for bearing with me, you guys, here while I get the camera in. There we go. I like that. Okay, thanks, Bran. Perfect. Okay. And let me tighten this up. Oh, thanks, Kim Crawford. I'm glad you like these shots. It's kind of fun to do. Let me move my coffee over here. To do them kind of from my perspective, I think, sometimes. So you guys can see exactly what it is that I'm doing. All right, so now I can see, you guys can see, we're in good shape. Okay, so with the Parawire, I've got a whole bunch on my messy little table already, right here. And I've got two of our colorways. I've got the rose gold, and we're carrying the rose gold from 16 gauge all the way down to 26 gauge, which is great. It's a great variety of wires and sizes, and I think it's really going to cover everything you need as far as wire wrapping goes. The 16 gauge is something that's kind of newish. I think we are going to be adding maybe even a 14 gauge in this, because I've got some heavy gauge wire projects coming up for you soon on Facebook Live. Let me get my cutters here and let me open this 16 gauge. This is the rose gold. Okay, looks like this, and it comes in 15 feet here, a 15 feet kind of bigger spool. When you get your heavy gauge wire like this, all you need to do is kind of unwrap it a bit, like so. And then kind of that sad little gnarled up piece, I could come in and start to use my wire straightening plier to straighten this stuff out, if you want to be thrifty with it. Whoops. I just threw some wire across the room because it was a little tough. There we go. Cara to the rescue. Cara's like, there's that wire. Thanks, Cara. We're carrying, it's a good question, Kathy. We're carrying the spools kind of in this smaller crafty size, craft-friendly size. But if you do want spools in bulk, I'm sure that we could look into special ordering them for you. We can get any color you like. We're going to be adding some fun colors to our selection. Okay, so I'm going to cut that kind of crunchy little piece away. So here's my 16 gauge, and the tool, the cutter that I'm using for this 16 gauge, this is the Xuron, what we call the Xuron Maxi Shear cutter, and it's perfect for cutting heavier gauge wire. And let me really show you when I come in to cut this 16 gauge, how I can just come in with my shear, give it a cut, holding my finger over the other little piece of wire so it doesn't fly away. And look at what a nice, clean, straight across flush cut that gives me. You guys have seen me do this before and before, but it's all nice and straight. Oh, and Gita's saying hello from her concert. Yes, great. Thank you, Gita. Everybody misses you, but we enjoy your concert, and we'll see you on Wednesday. So the wire that I have here in front of me, as I said, is the rose gold. Now, let me tell you a little bit about how this wire is made, okay? It's a silver-plated rose gold wire. And the way that Parawire makes their wire is they start with a base wire of pure copper, just like this. Okay? Just their plain, bare wire. Then they plate it with pure silver, fine silver. So since it's a pure silver coating, whenever they add their non-tarnish coating over the top, whether it's rose gold or they have different beautiful colors, that color is over that pure silver so that the wire color is beautiful and vibrant and clean and super shiny and lovely. So that's why these colored wires really have a lot of life to them. It's because they're over pure silver, or fine silver as we like to call it. So that's what this is all about. So all the way from the rose gold and 16 gauge all the way down to 22 or 24, the color on this wire is just super vibrant and beautiful. So I'm going to put these guys aside for the moment, and I want to talk to you about this bare wire. And you also might be thinking or might be asking, well, Kate, what is the temper of the wire? Or what is the, you know, is it hard? Is it half hard? Is it soft? What's it all about? So in 16 gauge, you can see it's still pretty pliable, like so. So it is a soft wire. It hasn't been tempered to have it work harden or stiffen. So this is what's known as a dead soft wire. Though in a 16 or a 14 gauge, it's a little less pliable because it's, you know, a bigger diameter. In a finer gauge, like this 24 gauge, let me take this little guy off and see if I can grab a piece of wire out. There it is. In 24 gauge, can I get you out here, 24 gauge? Get out to the party here, the wire party. There it goes. I think. Do you ever have this trouble? Maybe not when everybody's watching it. There you go. And you can see how super, super pliable this is, like this, right? So it's ready for you to go. Okay, so that's this stuff. The bare copper wire is going to be a game changer for us because it doesn't have any coating over the top, and it's a jewelry grade copper wire. So you know what we're going to be able to do with it in certain projects? We're going to be able to antique it. And I've got some liver of sulfur gel here, and coming up real soon, in not next Facebook Live, but the week after that, when we do Viking knit, I'm going to do the Viking knit using this bare copper wire in the 26 gauge, and we're also going to be antiquing with the liver of sulfur. So I'm going to show you how this works, and it's really going to be for those of you who haven't done a lot of metalworking or haven't done a lot of antiquing. This is really going to be fun for you to learn how to do. So it's going to be great. So bare copper wire is what we're using with our antiquing solution here. So it's going to be really awesome, and I'm going to go over how to use it and everything. Well, we're going to do that in a future Facebook Live. We're not going to do this today, but I did want to show you it's up and ready on the site. And for those of you who want to get ready for doing our Viking knit on Facebook Live, not this week, but coming up week, after that, I'm going to be using 26 gauge for the Viking knit weave. It's going to be really fun and exciting, I think. So it's going to be great. So there's that. So it's these two are brand new. Let me talk to you a little bit about gauges and choosing gauges and stuff like that. And some of you guys have seen this before. I've made myself a little practice wire gauge, just a little wire gauge tool here. And you can see I've just done little wire wraps here on just a piece of scrap leather from the leather bin. And I have tagged them all with my little labeler. And you can see it goes from 26, there's 24, this should be 22, 20, 18 gauge, and 16 gauge here. Okay, so I've got some beads, and the main thing that I do when I'm starting to figure out what beads I want to work with copper or with wire is I first take a look at the hole. okay, of the bead. Let me actually, you guys have a couple of questions that I want to address before we jump into actually taking those beads off. There was a question all the way back. I'm scrolling and scrolling and scrolling here real quick. Holly, you asked real quick about the shadows in this bracelet. These are the regular shadows in brass. That's what these guys are. And these are our surrounded charm, or our surrounded slider, rather. And these are all on beadshop.com, of course. And these, I'm using it with, I think I used it with a 2mm leather, but a 1.5 or 2mm in distressed gray will work just perfectly. Then there's another question. Let me scroll down. I'm scrolling. Will bare copper wire turn your skin green? Great question, Rita. You know, everybody, I think, has a little bit of a different reaction because, you know, everybody's kind of skin is a little different. Copper, to me, maybe initially, like if I make a copper ring or something with it, it might turn my skin just a little bit, but the more you wear it, the less it happens with me. You can also use, there's a lot of products out on the market that you can use to seal your bare copper wire. One being just painting the inside of it with simple clear nail polish. But there's a lot of different products, like Protecto Clear is a brand name of one of them. There's several different ones. I also use sometimes the Krylon matte acrylic spray. So there's a lot of protectants, I guess, that you can spray or dip your pieces into. But I don't really worry about it. I like my bare copper to naturally patina because it is the natural metal, natural untouched metal. We're also going to be starting to carry natural brass, really beautiful, really beautiful natural brass wire as well. That's going to be great. And then the question, Dale, you said, will the Viking knit need a tool? We are not going to need a tool. I am going to show you my really great method for just using your hands and a simple dowel. The Viking knit chain is something that I've been making for almost 25 years, so it's really fun and really easy and very portable. I think you guys are really going to dig it. The only tool you're going to need is a draw plate, and we do have them in stock already, a nice wood draw plate to pull that Viking knit through to elongate it and kind of compact it down. So it's going to be awesome. So I think you're really going to really love it. The packaging, yeah, it does say non-tarnish on this, Shawnee, but I went ahead and did some antiquing. And it takes the antiquing beautifully on this. The non-tarnish coatings are these that are the plated that have the colors over the top. So it's going to be great. Dale, we're going to use all kinds of different sizes, and I will share all of that info for you on the broadcast, but we can go from very small to very big. It's going to be awesome. Oh, and yes, Char, great. Yes, the draw plate. That is the tool you're going to need, exactly. But we're not using like a wire knitter or something like that, or a little peg knitter or anything like that to do the Viking knit. And for Viking knit, it's very easy to do the 26 gauge with the Viking knit, or the 24, even the 22, and I'll talk to you about the different gauges. I'm going to use 26 gauge for mine because I want it to be super supple and pliable. Yes, dear, I can see you're very excited. I'm excited too. I'm excited to share the Viking knit with you. It really is a Kate Richburg classic, so I'm excited to do that. So let's go ahead, and I just have some beads in front of me here, and just to choose my gauge for wire when I'm starting to wire wrap, I pulled 2 of our beads that we have here in stock at beadshop.com. This is our 5mm check glass rondelle. This is our 6mm melon bead. And then I chose some of our metal shadow beads. These are queen size shadows like that. These queen size shadows have a pretty big hole. So we're going to go ahead and look at all 3 of these beads and choose our wire sizes for them. Okay. And yes, that's the one. Thanks, Manny, for linking the draw plate. That is awesome. We just got it in, and we promised to have plenty for you guys. But if you did want to get a jump start on your tools for that, that wire draw plate is exactly what we're going to need. So I'm going to free up some of these melons. Let me free up some of these rondelles. And I chose both of these because they're kind of pretty. This is our kind of rose gold melon, and I think this is our fuchsia rondelle. And I thought they looked really, really nice with my with the rose gold. Okay, looks really good. Beautiful. Manny, you're going to give Gita a run for her money. Thank you so much for doing that linking. You know, we couldn't do it without you guys watching and sharing our broadcasts and commenting, so I really, really appreciate all of you guys out there in bead shop land pulling together as a team. Thank you, thank you. Makes these Friday broadcasts so much easier. So let's start with this this small 5mm bead. Let me get the camera in really tight here so you guys can kind of see what this bead looks like. And let me hold it on there. You can see that's it's a smallish type of bead. So I would start, I'll get my little wire gauge tool that I made, and I'll start by, my default is kind of 24 gauge. Okay, so I'll put that 24 gauge on the wire, and I'll spin it around. I'll see that, okay, the hole, it fits nicely in the hole. And then I think about what it is I'm going to make. If I'm just going to do simple, small wire wrap loops, and maybe I want the look to be kind of delicate, this wire, 24 gauge, would be perfect. Okay? But let's say that maybe I wanted it to be a little more substantial. Maybe I'm making kind of a free form, maybe a chain of wire links that are wire wrapped together, and maybe it's going to be like a chain that I'm going to hang a pendant or something on. I've gone up to 22 gauge. 22 gauge still moves around beautifully, still fits through the hole, and I think visually still looks right with this bead. Okay, let's try 20 gauge. Let's see what 20 gauge looks like. Now 20 gauge, let's say that bead still fits on there, and let's say that I wanted to link these beads with just loops and not wire wraps. All right, just doing a loop to loop, kind of what we call a rosary chain or a rosary link. This 20 gauge, perfect for that. The wire gauge is heavy enough that the loop will hold its shape, but not so big that it doesn't fit through the bead hole. Okay, I have it here. Let's try 18 gauge. Will it fit? It does. It still fits on 18. So visually, this 18 gauge might be a little heavy for it. Maybe. I don't know. But I could, if I were making a component or something that I wanted to be more substantial, I could stack like maybe 3 across like this, and then visually it might be a little better match for that heavier gauge wire. Does that make sense? Okay. The 16, I don't think this will go through 16, but let me just check. I need to make, oh, I have a 16 gauge on here. Okay. There we go. That doesn't fit on the 16. Okay. So now, so I'll put those aside. Let's take a look at what 22 gauge, how that looks with the melons. Okay. 22 gauge I like with these melons a lot. And if I were stacking the melons up like this, right? These look nice. Oh, and that's a really good comment, Shawnee, about you're afraid I'll break my glass beads if I get too thick of wire. I'm going to address that, actually. That's a really, really good question. So when I'm going to do a couple of tester wraps, and I'm going to show you how to kind of deal with that in a minute. But it's a really great point. I also have then these queen size shadows like this. Something like this is perfect for that heavy gauge, 16 gauge. Look at how nice, visually clear it looks. Visually just heavy, and how it matches really nicely. Thanks, Sally. The wire gauge tool. You know, we don't have to sell them. You just make them yourself with your scrap wire. Get a piece of I did this on a Free Tip Friday one week, I don't know, a while back. Get yourself a scrap of wire, of leather, and just do your little wire wraps and do your little, just some little tags, and you've got your little tool. So you are set to go with that. It'll be a good crafty tool that you can make. Yeah, the 16 gauge, I think, with this, with that queen size shadow, I think is perfect. So when you're choosing your wire for your projects, take a look at, think about what the end project is going to be. Is it going to be something that's going to have to be really, really weighty or substantial, or go under a lot of wear and tear? Okay. Or do you need something that is visually, or needs to be a little bit lighter, like for an earring? Maybe you'd pop down a gauge to make it lighter. Is it going to be like a chain, a neck chain, where that wear and tear, maybe it needs to be like a 20 gauge? Or are you just making loop to loop to loop? You need a gauge that's heavy enough to stand up so it doesn't open up like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at looping with some of this wire here. Our last little trick we're going to do today. And Sherry, what we're doing today is we've talked a little bit about wire gauges, our brand new Parawire that we have here at beadshop.com. And now I'm going to just jump in with a couple of little wire wrap demos. I know a lot of you have seen me do this before, but it's kind of fun to go over since we've got some of our new wires in. So I'm going to use this rose gold here, this 24 gauge. So let me lop off a piece here. And I'm going to use a working length, I don't know, maybe about 3 inches. So I'm going to cut off this little curly tip here, get rid of that. And if you're working at home off the spool, you can always not cut your length and just work on the spool itself, which I think what I'll do here. Okay, so I'm going to slide my bead on, and then I'm going to forget about it. Then I'm going to come in. I have, under our skill builders on beadshop.com, we have 2 or 3 really great skill builders on wire wrapping. A briolette wrap, a rosary link wrapped, and a wire wrap bead loop. Both of those are really great references for you guys after this broadcast. So I'm going to do a wire wrap loop with this, because again, 24 gauge is kind of my default to start with if I don't really know what I'm going to make, or if I just want to do some wire wrapping. 24 gauge is a great way to go. Now, can you see how here I'm got my right angle, and I did that right angle with my chain nose plier. I angled, and I'm going to go up and over with this length, and I bend about 1 inch. Okay, about that. So now I'm going to get my round nose plier, and I'm just going to put it in fairly close to the tip because I don't want a really, really big loop. Okay, I'm just going to go up and over the tool, down and underneath. I'm going to place that loop that I just made right on the jaw of the plier, nice and tight. I want to grip it closed, but I'm not killing the wire, right? I'm just gripping it firmly, but I'm not going to make a mark on the wire because I'm squeezing it so tight. Okay, I'm going to come under the tool like so, bringing that little end just across. So if I take out my wire, you can see that I've got a nice round loop and then I've got the tail coming around. But notice, you guys, where the bend in the wire is that I made right here. I need to actually center that loop over the bend so that the loop will be nice and on top of my stack of beads eventually. Okay, so now I'm going to get my flat nose. I'm going to hold that loop again firmly, but not too tightly that I'm marking the wire. And I'm just going to wrap. I'm going to wrap using my fingers. You could wrap using your chain nose pliers as well. But see how I've made that first wrap? Now I'm going to come in, make another 360 like that, and let's do one last 360 that way. Okay. Now, if I need to kind of make sure that my wraps are nice and straight, I'll get my chain nose, my bent chain nose, and I came in and I'll tighten that up, and now we're all set. And this rose gold, this pear wire, rose gold wire, I think really has a beautiful finish. You know, it's not quite gold, it's not quite copper, it's a really great in-between. Notice how I've clipped that wire away, and I have a little tiny burr right there. So I'm going to come in with my bent chain nose and push that little burr down. Now, I slide that bead right up, okay, and I'm going to bend my wire. Now watch what I do here. I'm still working off the spool, right? Can you still see I've got the spool right up? Whoops, sorry. Still got the spool right there. Now I'm going to bend and make a little neck for that wire to come and wrap around. Okay, so bend at a right angle. Now this is where you do need to be careful that you don't want to nick the wire or nick the bead or crack the bead when you're wire wrapping. So I'm going to come in, that little neck, I'm going to go up, bring the whole spool around, up and over, down and underneath, and then I'm going to just straighten it out. Now, as I wrap, I'm wrapping, this is actually going to give me about 4 wraps. I stop, it's kind of hard to see. Let me get this in view. Sorry, I'm not all the way in camera. See how there's the tiniest, it's not even as wide as the tip of my awl, bit of space there. Tiny. I'm going to come in, I'm going to leave that little bit of opening. I'm going to come in and clip away with my Xuron. And that tiny little bit of space allows me enough room to come in and pull with my chain nose, just detailing it all the way around, and it gives me a little bit of room for that wire to fit. Now these beads, these glass beads, are pretty sturdy, so they're not going to chip. You can even be a little bit tighter on there and they're not going to chip. Some semi-precious are going to chip like the dickens. They're going to chip, chip, chip because they are, you know, brittle or fragile. Also, freshwater pearls, they have a tendency to sometimes want to just mark or chip right around the hole if it's too tight. So leave that, as we're saying here, as Ginger said, you want to leave just a little bit of air. Faye, I think that's a great idea, using the tip of your Xuron crimpers, though my Xuron crimpers aren't sitting here next to me. I'm not sure where they wandered off to, but the Xuron crimpers have a super tapered tip to them, and they would work really, really great for doing your bend. So let's make a loop with this. And the Xuron crimper with the 3 different sizes in it for the different crimps, you could use it like, who was saying earlier? Michelle was saying earlier she uses the crimper, Soft Flex crimper to come in. That little circle end is what I'm guessing you use to kind of come in and walk it around instead of your bent chain nose. And that would work out really, really well. So yeah, I think that's a great tip as well to try that, to use that one. Let's use the 20 gauge, and I want to show you the difference. Here's the 20 gauge here. That's copper. I want 20 gauge in rose gold. Here it is. Okay. So I'm going to open this up, and this is a little bit of a heavier gauge, but let's make a rosary loop before we part ways today. You can see here's the 20 gauge. It's a little heavier, but I'm going to come in, I'm going to make a nice straight across cut, minding that my wire doesn't fly around in my head, up to my head. And I'm going to string on. This time I'll do a little design. And see how this bead here, as I put it on, it was a little hard. And can you see it's because that wire has a little bit of a curve to it. Wire isn't like thread, where if it has a little bend or a twist in it, it's okay. It's just easy to get your bead on. The wire needs to be perfectly straight most of the time to get those beads right on there. Okay. So I'm going to just do a bend, what we call a traditional rosary loop. I'm going to bend, leaving about, I don't know, depending on how large of a size of a loop I want. That's maybe about 3/8 of an inch or so. Okay. And this is the rose gold plated shard. This is a rose gold plating over fine silver over copper. So it's a really durable wire coloring on the top. I'm going to get my round nose plier. I'm going to grab, and I'm just going to walk my loop in between the tool. And can you see how I've made my loop completely round, and it meets there at the bend. Now I'm going to slide these guys up. This is another place where you could nick your beads. So as I bend my wire over my bead hole, see how I kind of get my thumbnail almost, or my thumb right in there, and that's when I bend. So that when I bend, I have just the slightest amount of movement here. Okay? So I don't want to push it down too tight, I just want a little movement. Now I'm going to cut another about 3/8 of an inch. Cut that away using my Xuron. And let's again bend this wire up and over the top. Grab it and let's walk. Let's walk it round. Up and over. 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 And as I'm doing my loop, you guys, since I'm not gripping this tool so tightly with my hand, gripping it so tight, I'm also pushing this beaded component as well. So I'm not just looping with one hand, but I'm using both hands to make this loop. So I don't have to grip that wire so tightly. I hope that makes sense. But you can see here, I have two really nice even loops on my component. And again, I still have a little bit of room here so things can move around and I'm not chipping any beads. So let's connect these two together. Let me show you how that would go. For opening a loop that I've made with 20 gauge, I will just lift like so. I'll slide on this wire wrap component that I've made, grab it at that same point, and pull it down, just like so. Okay. So what we've got here are a 20 gauge component wire wrap to a 24 gauge component. So you could mix you know, both of these components together. And mixing wire, I think, in your designs is a great way to add a little bit of visual interest. Let's see, we've got a few questions here. I did see that our friend Brenda Schwader joined us. Brenda, it's great to have you watching the broadcast. Some of you know Brenda Schwader, of course, as the inventor of the Now That's a Jig, and she has a whole bunch of wire wranglers over on her website and watching her Facebook Lives. It's really, really great. So if you love wire, go ahead and give Brenda Schwader a follow. She's really great, great, great. Also, another question here, Melanie. I am going to show you how to use liver of sulfur, but we're going to do it on another broadcast. It's its whole thing. It's a whole own animal. And on Facebook Live, when we do the Viking knit, that's when I'm going to show you how to use that liver of sulfur. Let's see. There was another question. I don't stand. Cindy is saying, I really like the loop links, but I don't understand why on the second loop I have to bend the wire. Can it be done without doing that? Well, it's a great idea, or it's a great point, Cindy, to bring up. So let me show you how I might deal with that. And Faith, you're asking, can these new wires be hammered? And yes, they can. All of these colored wires, all of the parawire across the board can be hammered beautifully. And in some future Facebook Lives, I'm going to be doing some hammering. So don't you worry. I won't leave you guys who want to hammer out in the cold. So let me start with some 20 gauge. And I'm going to really straighten this out. And for ease of use, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lop off a piece of wire. Okay. So let me get a little piece of paper here and a little pen, and I'm going to make myself a little mark that's about 3/8 of an inch. So this will be my goal for my wire length from my loop. Christine, you're asking if the parawire can be soldered. The bare copper wire can be soldered, and the bare brass wire that we're going to be adding in can be soldered, but they're plated wires. Will not hold up under the flame of soldering. So I'm going to come here. So if you wanted to get everything right, you know, right on the mark every single time, I'll line up my little end of wire right to my mark. I'll grab it at the end, and I'll make a bend. Okay, so here is my right angle bend, and I can double check and make sure that's correct. Okay, so now I want that wire bend to correspond to wherever I want it to go on the head of my tool, so that when I roll it over, it's going to be just perfect. And on this particular round nose plier, it's about, let's see, about maybe 3/16 of an inch up from the tip, about. And I just know these pliers because I've been looping with the same pliers forever. So, and I want to make sure I've got a flush end, which I don't think I do. So let me get a flush end on there. There we go. And now I'm going to get the side view so you guys can see it. I hope you guys can see pretty well. As I make my loop, I put a little pressure here with my thumb, pushing the wire away from me and pulling this plier towards me. Okay? So that tension allows my loop to stay straight and even, and it keeps it in contact with my tool. So as I go around, and you can see as I did this one, I'm a little short. I wasn't quite paying attention as I was working it around. So that's okay. I can open it up just a little. And yes, Shar, you can mark your tip with your marker and with a permanent marker, and it works really great. See how I've just opened that up? I'm going to look at it visually. Okay. And I'm going to continue to roll, and there we go. We've fixed that. No big deal. Okay. So I've got a nice round loop. So now, this side, This is the side, Cindy, that you're having the issue with, right? If I'm going to put 3 on here, so I'll have room to hold on to. Okay. Now, if I don't loop, okay, or if I don't bend and make my loop, if I just cut my wire off at that same, maybe that same length, maybe just a touch longer because we have to account for the bend. Okay. What you can do is you can come in, you can loop over, loop, loop, hold the wire, hold the piece firmly, but not so much that you're going to make a bend or make a mark. So see how your little loop is coming over like a P, like this? You can pull it back and you can center. Okay? There we go. Sorry, it really wasn't in your view. Like this. Okay? It's given me a little more room. It's not quite as good. And see, that bend isn't quite as crisp. If I need to make this loop a little bit smaller, because it's not quite the same size, I'll go in, I'll clip. Now if I really wanted to fix this up, okay, I could put my tool in there and let my tool help me make that bend. See that? Then I can continue to move forward, and that bend looks pretty good in there. Hold that there so you guys can see the 2 loops together. So that helps. Let me do one more so it's a little, so I'm a little faster and not not doing it so slowly, so you can see it all together as one loop. And you guys were asking about Brenda. It's Brenda Schwader. And Brenda, if you're still watching, feel free, if you want to drop a link to your page, feel free to do so. We love our Brenda. But she's a really great wire wrangler and does beautiful, beautiful work with the jig. So there's my loop. You can see I did that super fast. And then I'm going to throw another one on here. Maybe I'll kind of reverse that out, put this guy on. But you can see when I do my bend, I just do my bend quickly. I push the beads away from me, push the wire towards me, and there I've got my bend. So I really think that I just think it's faster to just jump in, make that bend, bite the bullet on it, Cindy. Because you won't, especially since I bend it like over my thumbnail like that, it gives me a little bit of room, so I'm not going to crack that bead. Okay? And then I come in and I just loop this over. Whoops, up and over, up and over, up and, whoops, I'm going too fast. Up and over. Okay? And the question, Cindy, yeah, does bending the second side make the loop more accurate? It does. So you don't have to screw with it so much. That's exactly right. I think it does make it more accurate because then you know exactly how much you're leaving. Okay? Oh, great. Deb, thanks for putting that link up there for Brenda. Michelle has a question. How long have I used the same pair of pliers before replacing them? Michelle, I actually in my studio have the same pair of pliers that I started working with 25 years ago. Okay? Find a pair of pliers that you like and keep working with them. The ones that we carry here, these are a really good kind of entry level. They're not super inexpensive, but they're not super spendy. The handles are really, my hands are kind of smallish, so I like the smaller handles. and the round nose plier is completely round from tip all the way to the end. So this, I think, are a really good kind of entry-level trio to have. And then you need some good wire cutters. I love this Xuron cutter. It cuts all the way up from 12 gauge all the way down to 26 gauge to me. So I love them all. I do have just an old pair of just the ones we used to carry at the bead shop long ago that I think we may actually add back in. They're the German plier with the red handle. It's a great plier, and they're wonderful. So, you know, find a pair of pliers, find the pliers you like, and use them. Keep them away from household repairs, and don't use them in the flame of your torch if you're soldering, and they'll last you a lifetime for sure. Okay. How would I end this? And we'll end on Pamela's question. If you don't want to loop at the bottom of the bead, say just make a drop, how would you end it? So let me show you that. Let me show you that with 22 gauge. Pamela, and I'll show you how I do that. With 22, it's kind of a nice middle of the road gauge. I'll straighten it with my nylon jaw wire straightening pliers. I'll clip off again, I don't know, about 3 inches. I always say that my finger is about the right length for an earring drop, and since I always have my finger with me, it's a good measuring tool. Okay. Michelle is saying, or no, Tammy's saying you could hammer the end of the wire to make a paddle and it'll hold the bead in place, which would work great. Or you could also make a spiral, and what I'm going to make is a spiral. I'm going to get really tight here so you guys can see what I'm doing. I'm going to start with a flushed cut end on my wire. I'm going to grab that end and I'm going to loop it around with my chain nose plier. So I've made like the tiniest little hook. I'm going to come in, smush that tiniest little hook down, like so. So I've got a closed center. Now that little closed center, I'm going to put just so the end is sitting just outside my plier. Okay? And I'm going to just start to spiral, and you can make a smallish spiral like I'm doing here, or you can make a bigger spiral. I'm going to make a spiral that's a little bit larger. Hold it firmly, but not so much on a death grip that you're marking your wire. And see here, I'm spiraling, I'm spiraling. Make your spiral whatever size you like. That's a good look, right? Maybe one more round. One more round. Okay. Now, to make this into a head pin, I grab the spiral that I've made so that the edge of my plier is bisecting the spiral right down the center. I'll push the wire towards me and then up. So you can see I've got that nice angled bend there. Now, let me put on some more of our pretty beads here. Let me get one of these, one of those, and one of these. So you can see it's made a really nice drop down at the bottom. Now, I'll just go ahead and real quickly, like you've seen me do this all the show, is just wire wrap it. Up and over, down and underneath, center the loop, and wrap it around. Okay, leaving that little tiny opening, the tiniest of openings. So when I come in to clip away my wire has a little place to live. Okay, so it doesn't crack the bead. And if I need to straighten out the loop, I'll do so. Okay, so there's my little wire wrapped unit, though my loop is a little sad. I was going a little quickly, but let's fix it up. That's a little better, a little less sad. Okay, so there we have all of our pieces that we've created today using the various sizes of wires. We've done our little wire loop, our little wire measuring tool as well. We've talked about that. We've talked about connecting with different gauges of wire. Just as a reminder, some of you asked earlier, the plated wires are not a solderable wire, but the bare copper wire that we have, it's not coated with anything, so those would all be solderable. Okay, easy peasy. You can find everything, all of our brand new pair of wires, both the rose gold and the bare copper, on our website on beadshop.com, and we're going to be adding some really great colors, so stay tuned to our website and to our email for the upcoming product launches for those guys. I'm going to turn the camera around so we can sign off and say goodbye. Cindy's asking, Kate, am I working at a big wood table? I am. It's kind of our big wood table that we have here in the middle of our office. We use it as our Facebook Live table. We also use it as our lunch table. And when product comes in, there's Karen. Karen's all, you caught me. There's Cara. You're like, wait, you turned the camera around.
Well, wait really quick.
Yes, everybody is also running around filling orders as well. Karen, you glimpsed, she's the one who does all of our beautiful web stuff. She's our webmaster, but she's also taking a moment to fill some orders. And so, yes, so we all pitch in and do everything here, here at Bead Shop. So I hope that it was super helpful. Karen, you're getting a lot of hellos.
Hi,
a lot of hellos for Karen. So yeah, so that's the story. I'm sticking to it. This Wednesday, we're going to have a special guest. When Emily is off for a few weeks. She's taking a well-earned rest and vacation. So next week, I have Sarah Ayler from Softlex Company. She's going to be my guest on Wednesday, and we are going to be doing a really great project from her latest book, and we're going to be talking all about Softlex, how to use Softlex in your designs. It's going to be really, really fun. And then the following week, the week after that, that's the big Viking Knit episode. I can't wait. We're going to be using the bare copper, we're going to be using the rose gold, and I'm also going to show you how to use the liver of sulfur to antique your pieces. So I think you're really, really going to love it. And then the week after that, I think, is the week that Janice is coming back. She'll be back for a visit the first week of May, and she has an amazing new project for you as well. So thank you so much, you guys, for joining me. Everyone's saying hi and bye to Karen and Kata because they can see you on the video. So again, thanks so much. I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday on Free Tip Friday, and it's Kate Richburg from beadshop.com. See you guys soon. Thanks for watching.